Domestic question, beginning with Mr. Houghton. Regarding the Constitution and that Ms. Elena Kagan has supported a long-standing policy barring military recruiters from campus because she felt that the military's don't ask, don't tell policy discriminated against gays and lesbians, do you agree that Ms. Kagan should be opposed if she does not espouse openly and clearly a strict constructionist model of jurisprudence?
Yes.
Oh, you want to
I'll tell you what, I was an Air Force officer, and I did my Air Force ROTC at St. Joe's, and they recruited in St. Joe's, and that's important to universities. It's important to the military, and it's important to the world. That's where we're going to get our leaders from. I was a leader in the military. I want to be a leader in Washington. You know, it didn't just happen overnight. You know, if we take our recruiters off, enlisted or officers, we take our recruiters off of the college campuses, we're going to lose out on some good leaders, some good, intelligent people.
I agree with what Brian said about military recruiting, but the way I interpret the question is a little bit broader, and that is, should we be sending strict constructionists to the Supreme Court? The answer to that question is very clear in my mind, yes. The Constitution is the Constitution. It's not a living, breathing document. You don't get to make it say what you want it to say, and that includes standing up for it when you don't agree with what the outcome is. There's a lot of folks that are really heavily supporting the steps that Arizona has recently taken with their immigration issue. Now, they did that because they have to, because the federal government failed. It failed. But at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons why I've said I have some concerns about that. You have to be true to the Constitution through and through. And when you go down there and you take this job, every person has to take an oath. Support and defend the Constitution. And it says what it says, nothing more, nothing less.
Sorry. I have the floor. I agree with a strict interpretation of the Constitution in what it originally meant and originally said. Apparently the new justice appointee or candidate does not. Clearly, our military is something that the federal government actually does do well. We have the best military in the entire world. I believe the military should make decisions regarding to how they work and their policies. Don't ask, don't tell seems to be working, and our military is working. If it's working, don't break it. Don't do something. If it's working, don't fix it. Certainly, I don't want to hear from the president of Harvard University as to what the military should be doing or not doing.
Anybody here from Harvard? Just to follow up on that, though, about Elena Kagan, there's been a long-standing philosophy on the part of most of the U.S. senators over my lifetime that have said, even if they disagree with a candidate, if this candidate is qualified, in other words, they might disagree with his or her decisions, but they'll say it was a logical decision or it's logical thinking, and the president, if a certain party is in, that gives that president the right to appoint someone that he thinks ought to be there. So you find, for example, with Democratic presidents, a lot of Republicans endorsing that, even though they have reservations, and vice versa over the last couple of generations in particular, even if they have philosophical disagreements. Are you thinking if you got in, and if you were a senator, that you would say, no, I don't care who the president is or what party he's in, that justice nominee is wrong, and I'm going to vote against that person? Is that what you're saying? In all of you.
I think you don't legislate from the bench.
But in other words, you won't defer to the party in power, to whoever won that old line, elections have consequences, right. That meaning. You don't care about that. You're going to go in there and say that justice is wrong, and I'm going to say no.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And all of you would say the same thing, or is there a new one?
I would say the same thing, and let me add one more thing. The reason why that policy is in place in large measure is we show deference because we want to keep our seat, so to do what's right. Now, let's be honest about the debate here. None of us are running for the United States Senate, so we wouldn't have a say in it. But if I was in that position, you do what's right. It's not about deference and protecting a party and giving the president his deference. There's two issues when you talk about a Supreme Court justice. Are they qualified in terms of their background? Do they interpret the Constitution the right way? So you take the stand and do what's right. And in this case, I would vote against her.
Applause just for standing up. That's pretty good, Dave.
Right. Elections do have consequences. That's why it's very important you make a good choice and you get the right people elected. Clearly, we had 2 conservative judges during the Bush years. Now, already within the first couple of years of the Obama administration, we've had two fairly liberal candidates. One who's already become a legislator or a justice, and one on the way probably. But yes, elections have consequences. But my beliefs and what I stand for, if I'm elected, remain my beliefs. And that's the way I need to vote and need to back them up.
There's a U.S. Senate election this year. If one of you is elected this year, and if you term limit yourself to 3 terms each, in 6 years you'd be able to run for that U.S. Senate seat. So folks might be thinking it. Next question. Regarding the growing influence of Venezuela's Hugo Chavez among the leaders of other South American countries, such as Bolivia and Brazil, and the poverty that drives Hispanics to emigrate northward, do you agree that America should continue to defend the Monroe Doctrine? And if so, how would you strategize that effort? And we begin the response with, with Mr. Quinter.
First of all, does everybody know what the Monroe Doctrine is? Let me just give you, I only have a minute and a half, so let me give you the very, very, very short version. The Monroe Doctrine was a doctrine developed by President Monroe back in the 1800s, and it basically said that North America and South America is our sphere of influence, and we keep everyone else at bay. It's the old Theodore Roosevelt's walk quietly, carry a big stick. Now, in terms of your specific question, there's no question that Hugo Chavez is a huge problem. I mean, the guy just doesn't like us, and he's made that abundantly clear. So and his policies create poverty, and he's doing a lot of the things that we've seen done in Cuba. So what we have to do is we have to support people around the world, and particularly in his region. I have been appalled at the treatment that Colombia has gotten by this Congress. We have a huge ally in Colombia that has been begging for a free trade agreement and our support, and we have refused to give it to them. That's a perfect example of how we support our allies in the region and isolate Chavez in a way that he has no impact anymore. Folks run to Chavez because he gives them stability. That's how dictators get control. When nobody else comes in to help them, they go where they can at least have stability. And as bad as he is, he at least gives them that.
Thank you.
Apparently the Monroe Doctrine hasn't been working that well. Cuba has been running on their own course for at least since 1959. But Venezuela I've been to on many occasions. Venezuela is a living, breathing experiment in socialism, communism. I've seen it go downhill. I've seen their residents leave. And I've seen it real. I play on a softball team in the wintertime that travels throughout the Caribbean, South America, Central America. So I've seen much of this firsthand and live. They have socialized socialized the farms. Farmer, his land was taken, his support, the resources were taken, given to someone else who didn't know what to do with those resources. They were all wasted, and that's the way the country's going. There's a river goes through the capital city, and on the south side is an airport. There's a bridge. Well, the bridge got wiped out, and that bridge has been gone for about 5 years now. So you can't even get from the airport to the capital city without going an hour-and-a-half trip around. There's the benefits of communism and socialism live in our hemisphere.
Thank you, Mr. Hogg.
Thanks. Hugo Chavez is one of the worst dictators in probably the history of the world. I think we need to support our allies. We need to give people an option to look away from his support.
That concludes the questions presented by the sponsors.